Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders, who you probably know is also running for president in 2020, is now calling for the House of Representatives to immediately start an impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump. And despite the fact that what he wants is an impeachment inquiry, there have been a ton of posts and discussions and comments online which initially said Bernie is calling for Trump's removal. And that's just not what Bernie did. Bernie is calling for the removal of Trump by voting him out in 2020. That's one way that Bernie Sanders is saying Donald Trump should be removed. But Bernie Sanders has only called for the beginning of an impeachment inquiry. That's step one in the impeachment process. Interestingly, this happened at a campaign rally late last week. It was not mentioned for days by media outlets. And when it was initially mentioned, a lot of the reaction to the story was completely misunderstanding what it is that Bernie Sanders said. So this is the right call that Bernie Sanders is making. And Bernie Sanders, like the David Pakman show, like other shows, we all realize that the Republican Senate is not going to convict Donald Trump and actually remove him from office. But the facts support starting an impeachment inquiry, period. And that's why I'm glad Bernie's doing this. He said at this rally in Henderson, Nevada, quote, "I believe the House Judiciary Committee should begin impeachment inquiries. That is, inquiries, not impeachment, to determine whether or not Trump has committed impeachable offenses." This is an important change, not because Bernie saying it will make impeachment more of a reality more quickly, but because it's starting to become a distraction. Does Bernie not think there should be an impeachment inquiry? What's wrong with Bernie? Why isn't Bernie willing to say it? Well, now Bernie Sanders has made it clear that he supports an impeachment inquiry. But I've got to make the same statement again that I've been saying for a while. An impeachment inquiry is not impeachment, and impeachment is not removal, okay? The process is inquiry during which there is testimony, investigation, debate by the House. If they determine that impeachment articles should be filed, those articles are then filed by the House. They require a majority, simple majority, 50% plus one of the 435 House members. Then there is a trial of sorts that the House puts forward all of the evidence they believe supports the impeachment of the president, at which point the Senate votes on whether to convict and remove the president or not. And to convict, you need 2/3 of the Senate. All we're talking about here, all that Bernie Sanders is talking about, is an impeachment inquiry. So there are a whole bunch of wrong reactions to this news. The first wrong reaction to this news is that many have said, oh, Bernie's calling for the removal of Trump. But that's not what he's doing. It's just not. It's wrong in two ways. Number one, Bernie's just calling for the inquiry, which happens before impeachment articles are even filed. And number two, even impeachment by the House wouldn't remove Trump. Only a conviction by the Senate would remove Trump. And it's not going to happen. OK, that's not the point. The point is we want to expose what Trump has done and potentially weaken him in 2020. There are others who are reacting to this saying Bernie's so weak. He's riding the fence. He's only calling for an inquiry. He should just buckle down and call for impeachment. It's a silly criticism. Bernie's a senator. Bernie would conceivably be one of the people voting on the trial that would be brought forth by these articles of impeachment if they were ever filed. It would be, in a sense, inappropriate for Bernie to say now, we must remove Trump. What most senators have been saying is that they believe either an inquiry should start or that the House should file articles. And then later, the Senate would ultimately be making the decision about how do they want to vote and do they get that 2/3 support. So Bernie's 100% correct here. He's saying do the inquiry. That's the required first step. It's great news. Maybe it'll put more pressure on people like Nancy Pelosi, who have been sort of hesitant to consider impeachment. And Bernie Sanders is, some people will criticize him for this, but I believe that the net positive benefit of him just saying this and getting it out of the way makes sense. I'm glad he did it. I agree. Let's start that inquiry as soon as humanly possible.